Alright, in the previous video we've been able to look at some of the basic concepts of website design. We'll look at static sites, we'll look at dynamic sites, and we talked about content management system. Alright, so now in this video we're going to be looking at HTML, hypertext markup language. HTML comes in different versions. For instance, we have the HTML 4.0, we have the HTML, or we have the XHTML. That's another version of HTML, but right now we have the HTML5. Okay, although there are some other versions of HTML for the 4.0, but I'm not going into that right now. I don't like history. Now, HTML is the modern language for building websites. No matter what you want to become, no matter what you want to do in the website, you must always or definitely stumble upon HTML. So you will definitely need to know about the HTML codes. Okay, so let me just see if I could lay my hand on something to show you what a typical HTML code will look like. Alright, so you see all these dragons here. Most of these are HTML codes, so we're going to know what all these things, or what these things stand for. For instance, what's the meaning of head, what's the meaning of this, what's the meaning of link, what's the meaning of div, and so on and so forth. You understand? So looking at this like this, it's just like some kind of jargon. Alright, so but within the next few minutes you're going to have some good understanding about the HTML code. So this is a sample code. Every website you see on the internet are a product of one or two codes. How did I get there? Just right click on any web page, click on view page source. You're going to see the codes that makes up the entire website. Okay, alright, so you could just go ahead and right click any website, just type the website name here, the URL www.sitename.com, and blah blah blah, like that. URL actually means uniform resource locator, and that's a unique identifier for every website on the internet. So you can call it the domain name. For instance, www.heroesworld.org. You understand? This is our domain name, and this is also the URL to reach our website. When I strike enter, if I'm connected to the internet, our website is going to pop up. Alright, so this is the URL of our website, or the domain name of our website. Alright, so I'm not going into that right now. Now, to get started using HTML, let me close this little sheet here. To get started with HTML, just launch your Notepad environment, click start, and then you can see Notepad here, but if it's not there, just go ahead and type Notepad. Then it's going to bring the Notepad, whatever. Click on it, and this is where you're going to be doing your coding. Whatever language you're using, Notepad is a very good environment for writing codes. You understand? Because it presents text in a plain text format. Okay, alright, so whether you're writing HTML code, PHP code, or Java code, you can use the Notepad environment for writing your codes. Although there are some other kind of application that comes with some more functionalities and tools than just a plain Notepad environment. For instance, you could write your HTML code in Dreamweaver environment also, but for the time being we're going to be working with our Notepad environment. Now, for every HTML document, it starts with HTML here, and then come down and close HTML. Okay, now this signifies that an HTML code is starting here and is ending here. Okay, now a typical HTML document or a typical HTML code is divided into two parts. Just like the human body, it have the head. You're going to close the head here. Take note of something. So every opening, there's always a closing. So there's an opening here for HTML, I close it here. The difference between these two tags, these are tags actually, we'll go into that shortly. The difference between this start tag and this end tag is that the end tag always comes with a / after the less than symbol. Alright, so now this is the HTML head. We're going to have the body also. Body. I think I can read your mind. You're thinking about closing the body, and I guess you're right. Alright, so that's it. Okay, so this is the head region of the HTML, and this is the body region of the HTML, all inside the entire HTML elements. Alright, so now the head of let me just open this guy here, this sheet here. Okay, so let me do a quick minimize. I'm going to refer back, or let me double click here to reduce it. So I'm going to explain something with these two windows. This is a HTML window, and this our browser window. Okay, now the head of our document is used to describe the web page. It contains information like meta information and the title. For instance, now inside the head we have the title. That's where we specify the title of our work. Let's say Heroes World. Close title. Alright, so you can decide to close it here, or you bring the title down, you understand, whichever way, provided the Heroes World is in between the title. If it's here, it is still in between the title, and if this one is here, it is still in between the title. Alright, so this title here is used to set what will be displayed on the either the title bar or the title of the tab. Okay, so Heroes World is going to be displayed here at the title of the tab. You understand? For instance, we could have more tabs here. You understand? So one website could be here, another website here, another website here. You understand? So looking at the tab, you just see the title of the document. Alright, so it also contains some other information that we're going to be working with much more later as we proceed in this this course of website design. Alright, so now the body is used to input or to input what's going to be displayed is the actual content of the website. So the body part of the HTML document is used to input what will be displayed in this part of the website, or let's say the body of the browser. Alright, so that's it. Okay, for instance, I could say this is our first website. So this our first website is going to be displayed here. So quickly, I'm going to show you how to save an HTML document. Alright, so what am I going to do now? Sorry, I forgot to show you something. Before you start any documents in HTML, or before you start any web project, the first thing you should do is to create your folder. So right click any place in the desktop or any location you want to put your site. For in my own case, I'm going to right click the desktop, go to new, and then click folder. Okay, so type the name of your folder, Heroes World. So if I'm designing a website for Chevron, I'm going to say Chevron. If I'm designing a website for Shell, I'm going to say Shell. But I'm designing a website for Heroes World, so I'm going to say Heroes World. Okay, so that's what I'm going to do. Or the name of any church. Let's say First Pentecost Church. Okay. Alright, so this is the folder. Double click on it, and inside this folder I'm going to have some subfolder. The first subfolder I'm going to have is for images. Alright, you could have subfolders for just anything you want to do. I use subfolders to organize the main root folder. This is the local root folder of our website. Alright, so right here we have the images. I'll just go ahead and have docs. That's for documents. All our raw files are going to be here. You understand? So let's say I did some kind of research. I met the company I want to design for, or the church I want to design for, and they gave me a couple of documents that I'm going to use for the website. So I can put all of that here. You understand? So, but the actual ones that I'm going to take from the list of available resources that I have is going to be placed here. That's talking about the images. For instance, I could download an image from Google. I will download it straight into the docs folder. But after trimming and editing a picture, I'm going to put the ones that are needed in our images folder. For instance, I might download like 10 images, but I don't want to use the whole 10. I just want to make some choice of 2. So the 2 that I'm going to use, I'm going to work on them maybe from Fireworks environments or Photoshop, then put them here in our images folder. So the docs is just a place to store your raw files and your gathered facts, your raw data for your website. Okay, but the images is for the actual content that's going to be on the website. Right, so apart from docs and images, there are some other things that I'm going to have also, like if you're going to be having some JavaScript code, you can go ahead and say JavaScript You understand? But I don't want to make it of anything like JavaScript in my work. You understand? If your site is going to contain music, maybe MP3, you could have a folder for MP3. You understand? If you're going to contain video, you could have another folder for video. You understand? And the rest of it now. But I'm not going to make it of all these things, so I'm just going to get rid of them right now with my delete key. Alright, so this is our local root folder. In the previous video, I did not explain something to you, talking about the definitions of sites. I think I'm just going to chip in that right now before we proceed, so you understand my terms. Definitions of sites. All right, now the first, this term sites, because in the course of this video, or in the course of this this training, I'm going to be making use of some terms, so it's good you are used to my terms. All right, so the first is website, the second is local sites, we call it remote sites, and the third is what? Local sites. Alright, so when we're talking about websites, it is a collection of web pages that are to be viewed by visitor using a web browser. Okay, for instance, now if I go here and I type heroesworld.org, I strike enter, it's going to display our website for us. So I can use the home, the about us, the contact buttons to navigate between pages. That's just the website. You understand? It talks more about the list of pages that the visitor is allowed to see. That's what forms the website. Okay, but when we're talking about the remote site is a combination of both what the visitor is allowed to see and what they are not allowed to see, that are resided in the remote server. For instance, after designing my website, I will need to host it. That is to put it on the internet. How do I put it on the internet? I have to upload it to a server. That is through a web hosting company. How do I go about this? I contact a web hosting company, I pay for my web hosting, and then they like give me a hosting space on the internet, and then I kind of upload or put my website in their server or put it on the internet, as the case may be. Now, the combination of all files that are residing in the hosting company's computer, or in your server that have been hosted, is what forms the remote sites. Okay, now that's quite different from the term website. Website talks about the public files, just what the visitor is allowed to see. Let's take for instance now a website that have to do with result processing. When you go there and then you type your matric number, your username, password, and what have you, it's going to display some information about you. Those are just the things that you are allowed to see. But the actual files, the actual programming codes that generates those results, you are not permitted to see them. You can't see them. Those things can only be viewed by the website designer or the website developer, because they are just there in the web server. Okay, so simply put, remote sites is a combination of all files, both public and private administrators file, that have been hosted to the server. But while the websites just comprise of just the public files alone. Alright, so now talking about the remote site, the local site, the local site is still the same as the remote sites, but the difference between the remote site and the local site is that the local site is what resides in your computer. Okay, so for instance, now when you go to my computer, we have our local disk C. The term local means it had this that is physically connected to this computer you are using, but the idea behind remote means something that is not physically connected to you. Now, since the server is not physically connected to you, something that is far from you, since it's something that's far from you, you are not physically connected to it, it becomes a remote. But once you're physically connected to it, it becomes local. So that's it. So once you're not physically connected to a machine, the machine becomes a remote machine. But once you're physically connected to it, it becomes local. Alright, so that's why we have the remote site and we have the local site. So that's just it. Now the local sites also comprise of both the public files and the private administrators file, but in this case the things that have not been hosted to a remote computer, but that of the remote sites have been hosted to the computer. So that's just the what I want to ship in here. Alright, so you could follow up as we proceed in this class. Okay, I think I'm going to close this guy now. Okay, alright, so these are sample codes in HTML. I'm just going to save this now. To save your work in HTML, to save your HTML document, just go over here, file, go to save as, and then I think I created my local root folder. I see I'm using the term local, just be used to my terms here. Go over to the desktop and then scroll down to First Pentecost Church here. So right here I'm going to impute the file name. I'm just going to say index.html. Now I'm calling it index because it's the first page in our project. Now the first page of every website is always called the index page. Of course, in the navigation bar you have home, about us, contact us, gallery, news, and the rest of that stuff. But the first page, which is also the home page, we don't have anything like home.html. Instead we have the index.html. Right, so I'm just going to save it as index.html. Make sure you're using small letters for everything, else you're going to run into some big problem. Now save your work. Now I'll just go over here and close it. Let's see how to preview our document. That's our first website. Close this guy now. Alright, so this is our work, First Pentecost Church, and this is what we've just created in HTML. So I'm just going to right click this guy, go over to open with, and then choose the browser you want to use. From here we have Firefox, we have Internet Explorer, but if your browser is not listed here, you could go ahead and then say choose default program. So sometimes it might be here, but sometimes it might not be here. But if it's not here, still there's no problem. Just go back here, click here, and then you'll see a list of all available programs that could open that stuff for you. But in my own case, I have the Firefox. I just click OK. Even without clicking OK, I could just right click here, say open with, and then click Firefox. This is our first website.